In August, 6 Malaysian states held their state assembly elections. One major issue for voters: bread and butter.
I lost my job, so yeah, I was quite sad because I'm the pillar of the family.
During COVID, a lot of savings were wiped out, so the recovery period will take longer.
Previous government's solution was to allow Malaysians to tap into their pension funds.
Rakyat perlu hidup, jadi mereka tidak ada pilihan.
But for many, this lifeline has quickly vanished.
Millions of people have wiped out their pensions and they have nothing left.
1 in 2 has only 200 per month to live until they die.
Is Malaysia staring at a retirement crisis? And can their depleted pension funds be saved?
That time bomb is ticking.
"49-year-old Norazlan Ismail can usually be found behind the wheels of his taxi cab. But in March this year, the father of 5 set off on foot from his hometown in Johor to the National Palace in Kuala Lumpur. He walked 312 kilometers over 6 days to deliver a message to the Sultan, to tell the country's lawmakers to hear the cries of people like him in need of financial help. What he wanted was for the government to release monies from the Employee Provident Fund, Malaysia's compulsory pension system.
Bila EPF saya dapat keluar, saya dapat nutup lubang yang ada di belakang. Alhamdulillah, jadi saya dapat survive untuk apa yang saya dapat harian sekarang. Sekarang lubang kat dalam ni masih, lubang di belakang masih ada. Jadi tak ada alternatif yang kelompok duit saya dapat untuk saya nak tutup. Saya memerlukan sangat pengeluaran KWSP bersasar. Rumah tangga saya hancur dan saya nak membina kembali, saya memerlukan dengan duit, dengan wang.
Living costs in Malaysia, like elsewhere in the world, have gone up. When the country held its important state assembly elections this August, cost of living was foremost on voters' minds. One survey found that Malay voters in the states of Terengganu, Kelantan, Penang and Kedah were overwhelmingly concerned about the cost of living, compared to issues like corruption, race or religion.
In terms of cost of living, of course, they're still high relative to years back, but the increase of the costs have been mitigated by some of the measures by the government. But of course, a lot of these things are not something that you can feel directly, especially when you are comparing to something that's relative from one person to another. So what's happening right now is that people are saying that economics issue is a big concern for a lot of voters.
Many of them lost their job during the pandemic and they're now in different types of employment. And some of them have set up micro-enterprises or they're in the gig economy. So when you have all of that, it means that the cost of living is much higher, your income hasn't increased and your employment situation is more precarious.
With an average income of around 80 ringgit or $17 a day, Norazlan found it tough to support his large family.
Gaji tak menentu. Kalau ikutkan kais pagi makan pagi, kais petang makan petang. Dari segi keuangan, pembelanjaan harian, anak-anak sekolah, lepas tu hutang-hutang yang ada sebelum-sebelum ni. Jadi saya tak dapat nak menampung dengan keadaan saya sebagai pemandu teksi sekarang. Kadang-kadang nak beli susu pun kadang-kadang tak ada duit. Nah, jadi nak buat macam mana?
The struggles of ordinary Malaysians come in the wake of the COVID pandemic, which hit the country hard. A few months into 2020, unemployment rose above 5%, the highest in 3 decades. Muhammad Nazri Moin found himself among those statistics. The former group assistant director of a hotel chain lost his livelihood when the virus swept the country and tourism vanished.
I would say I'm quite sad actually, and then don't know what to do actually, because you can't go anywhere. I mean, with my age that time, I hit 50. To join workforce in Malaysia, especially in Kuala Lumpur, is quite hard. You know, I sent resumes, my CVs, I think more than 100 companies, and then even I attended few job fairs and then not successful.
At 50, Nadri would have been eligible to withdraw funds from his pension, the Employee Provident Fund, or EPF. This is a compulsory savings scheme, with most employees setting aside 11% of their salary, while employers contribute another 12 to 13%. The EPF is divided into two accounts. Account 1 is meant for retirement, while Account 2 can be used in some cases, like for housing or education. Ordinarily, these funds are locked till workers reach the partial redemption age of 50, or full redemption at 55. But during COVID, then Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin, leader of the Perikatan Nasional government, allowed a special dispensation for workers to dip into their EPF to cushion the impact of the pandemic. Nadri took advantage of this, withdrawing $5,500 in total.
I use the money specifically for the business, part of it, and then some of it I use for daily use. So we ended up selling Indonesian dessert called Estella, and then one famous Thai street food, Kerabu, Maggi, Tom Yum, something like that, yeah. So it was an instant hit because we didn't compete with other vendors next to us. It was a good start for us.
But what started as a one-off withdrawal became insufficient as the pandemic wore on. And so, between 2020 and 2022, the governments under Muhyiddin and his successor, Ismail Sabri, sanctioned 3 more EPF withdrawals.
During Perikatan Nasional's time under Muhyiddin Yassin, the decision to allow for EPF withdrawals was a popular one, especially among the masses. So former Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin then really capitalized on that situation and used it to his political gains, and he remains to be a popular figure despite being the opposition now.
But by 2023, neither Muhyiddin Yassin nor Ismail Sabri was in charge. After the 15th general election, a unity government led by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim came to power. Then in February this year, Muhyiddin, now in opposition, urged the current government for one more round of EPF withdrawals. But there was one problem. For many, the EPF well is running dry.
If you ask an individual, did you benefit from it? And some will say, yes, because I withdrew everything I possibly could. So after the first round, there were millions of people who had already wiped out their funds. And then the next time, more people took out, and the next time more people took. So when it came to the final one, it was only actually the most wealthy people who had any money left.
Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim vetoed another round of withdrawals. It was revealed that at the end of last year, 51% of those 55 or under, roughly 6.7 million people, had less than 10,000 Malaysian ringgit or $2,100 in their accounts.
If you take those about to retire, now, 1 in 2 have less than 50,000, which means from withdrawal age until you die, you can use about 200 ringgit a month. Our poverty line is about 2002, 2005. It doesn't make any sense.
Further data revealed the depths of Malaysia's retirement crisis. As many as 30% of contributors have emptied their basic savings account. And only 4% of Malaysians can afford to retire, according to EPF officials.
I think it's a reality today, to be honest. I think that some of our members do fall into poverty at retirement, or even before retirement, because they don't have the capacity to continue to generate the kind of income they need.
I think it is reasonable to say that the pension crisis is here now. It's not something for the future, it's happening now. And that's why it's important that we start to look at it.
However, despite the worrisome state of the EPF, calls to allow for more withdrawals are growing louder. The reason? Inflation has ballooned the cost of living. From 2.5% in 2021, the inflation rate increased to 3.3% last year, then to 3.7% in January this year.
And in terms of purchasing power, actually it's slightly more difficult because one, prices has gone 2020 to 2022 because crude price within the period has doubled. Gas price increased by about 6 times. Grain prices also has increased.
Now, struggling Malaysians want the authorities to help. According to one survey, over 60% of respondents said the government hasn't done enough to address the high cost of living. This leaves the government with a quandary. Resist calls to draw on the EPF further to protect long-term financial health, or succumb to the pressure of a quick fix?
Because we're having issues with income not being enough, not increasing in tandem with inflation rate, and a lot of jobs, quality jobs, are not easily available for Malaysians, and people who are outside of the urban areas might not necessarily have the accessibility to good jobs with good income. So these are structural issues, but a lot of these issues are always framed with a racialized narrative, and that's what has been capitalized by politicians to garner votes from voters, especially from the Malay community.
Nak berhenti memang tak ada kerja pun. Umur macam saya pun kalau nak kerja tempat baru memang masalah. Cakap umur je pun akan ditolak lah kan.
With more than $12,000 still in his account, Nur Azlan had hoped his stunt would spur the government to allow for another round of withdrawals.
Pasal benda yang kita dah ambil sebanyak 3 kali ni pun dapat menutup apa yang ada, bukan keseluruhan. Jadi untuk yang last ni saya mohon untuk ada sikit lagi hutang saya yang lapuk, saya nak tutup dan kemudian saya boleh bina step balik kehidupan untuk anak-anak saya.
The government has fended off calls to release EPF funds, but the episode has raised some important questions. Were the previous allowances to draw down on EPF the right move, or has it created a looming retirement time bomb? Almost every day, from 10 a.m. till late, 30-year-old Sukhvinder Singh travels across the capital city, Kuala Lumpur, on his motorbike. His job? To deliver parcels to offices and residences within a 10-kilometre radius. Compared to 3 years ago, he can breathe a little easier nowadays. There are more parcels to deliver and therefore more money to be made. A sign that the economy is recovering from the pandemic. Sukhvinder makes up to 5,000 Malaysian ringgit, or over $1,000 a month. Enough to support himself and his elderly parents. A stark contrast to the difficult days of COVID restrictions, known as the PKP.
It's so hard. I have to curfew. We cannot go anywhere. PKP, you cannot do anything. Sometimes we don't have work. So if we have a company is open, and then we can start our job. Only you can get our own money, pocket money.
Sukhvinder had never made any contributions to the EPF before. EPF is only applicable to civil servants and those formerly employed in the private sector. Gig workers and freelancers are exempt, though they can pay into a voluntary scheme.
We have about 1.6 million civil servants that falls under the government pension system. The rest of the workforce, which is roughly around 14.5 million, a little over half actually contribute regularly to EPF. The other half don't. So we have a situation where you might contribute for 3 or 4 or 5 years, then you switch jobs into something that doesn't require you to contribute, and then you miss quite a considerable chunk of your income that could have been saved.
So for Sukhvinder, where making ends meet is already a challenge, planning for retirement is sometimes a bridge too far.
That time was worried lah, but what to do, we cannot do anything. Maybe that time I don't have enough money to put money in the EPF.
And for those like Sukhvinder, who don't contribute regularly, or others who depleted their EPF accounts during the drawdowns, there's an opportunity cost. They miss out on the sizable interest that the government pays into EPF savings earned through investments.
So far, EPF, throughout historical returns, it has been giving around 6% a year. Yeah, even when the market was bad, it was about 6% a year like that. So I would say that it's pretty amazing. So what kind of investment out there in the market that doesn't have the risk of losing money can give you about 6% return? I think you ask any fund manager, you ask any professional in money, they'll tell you it's a good investment if you're looking at that range of return.
For members who have money in their accounts, it's one of the best investments that you can make. For members who don't have any money in their account, it's not working for them.
By withdrawing early from the EPF, it's a case of the poor becoming poorer. Yet COVID-19 posed extenuating circumstances. The economy contracted 5.5%. Over 30,000 small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, were forced to shut down. Unemployment rose above 5%, around 580,000 households, which previously were in the middle income category, known as M40, slipped into the B40 group. B40 is the bottom 40% of the population. Malaysia's poverty rate also recorded a spike from 5.6% in 2019 to 8.4% in 2020.
So while GDP, you can say GDP has improved, that's very good, but it's not yet translated to the well-being of the people because unemployment has not yet recovered, poverty has not yet recovered, the growth is not yet inclusive.
It was under these conditions that then Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin allowed EPF members to dip into their retirement savings to help ease their financial hardship. The first such withdrawal was made in April 2020 under a scheme known as iLestari. All EPF contributors under the age of 55 could tap up to 500 Malaysian ringgit per month over a period of 12 months. In February 2021, the facility was further extended in the form of iSinar. Members could withdraw up to 10,000 Malaysian ringgit if they had 100,000 ringgit in their savings. The maximum withdrawal amount allowed was 60,000 Malaysian ringgit if they had 800,000. In June 2021, it was extended again. The new iCitra facility allowed up to a maximum of 5,000 Malaysian ringgit. Then, in April of 2022, EPF members were again allowed to withdraw from their account. In total, Malaysians were allowed to withdraw from their EPF 4 times. Now, with the pandemic in the rearview mirror, some question if unlocking the EPF was the right move.
Critical time requires critical action. I don't disagree with whatever decision that have been made by Muhyiddin and Ismail Sabri, because given the depleted resources that the country had during that time to assist the needy people, maybe this is one of the options to tap on EPF savings to alleviate their situation at that critical juncture.
It came down to survival. Of course, you know, you're going to have less money when you retire, but if you cannot survive at the moment because you can't eat, you know, there's probably a more critical problem that you have, you know, at that particular time. So it was necessary.
Pencarum atau members of EPF ini, mereka yang request bukan kerajaan desak mereka suruh, mereka ambil duit mereka, tak. Kerajaan dah bantu semua. Dalam semua sektor ekonomi ini, kerajaan telah bantu semua dan mereka beban. Cuma mereka yang minta KWSP ini kerana mereka nak memulakan hidup baru pasca COVID-19. Setelah mereka dah, orang kata, sangat susah.
Yet others looked on the decision more harshly.
It was a disastrous move, in my opinion. If you allowed them to withdraw, they would wipe out their savings and then they would have no savings for their pension.
Dr. Muhammad Abdul Khalid was the economic advisor to the former Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, during his second tenure in office. He didn't mince words on his critique.
During the period, a lot of people no jobs, no money. What should have been done? Instead of asking the right to withdraw from EPF, which is for retirement, the government should give cash. It's not to ask people you take from your saving. It is irresponsible. I would say the policy to ask withdrawal from EPF is the worst policy ever the country has announced and implemented since independence. It is irresponsible. The minister should go to jail.
To be fair, the government did provide aid to tide the economy through COVID. 530 billion ringgit was allocated across 8 stimulus packages between 2020 and 2021. But as the pandemic wore on, the government too ran low on resources.
After so many scandals, including 1MDB fiasco that happened, the country financials have been severely depleted. So given pandemic and during that time political uncertainty, I don't think the government will be able to raise enough money at a reasonable rate. So that's why they make the decision, use your own money to save yourself.
But at that particular time, I think the government also has problem financially. The economy was not moving. There was lockdown. There's no, money going around. The economy was kind of like stuck at a particular time. So for government to help the people back then, they were in trouble too.
And this is really quite important to remember. It's not the government's money in the EPF. It's people's own money. So they had to use their own money to look after themselves during the lockdown because the government was not giving them sufficient direct cash transfers.
To be clear, the EPF isn't running out of money. Its overall balance sheet remains healthy. Rather, it is individual members on the lower rung of the economic ladder that are facing the crunch.
The asset size didn't actually dip over the COVID years. So we started at just under 1 trillion and we ended 2022 at just around 1 trillion ringgit. This year, obviously, we saw a lot of growth. But again, it wasn't a financial problem for EPF itself. The impact was more about the savings for our members. I think especially for those in the lower rungs, we still have roughly about half the membership below 10,000 ringgit.
So what the pandemic exposed was a much larger issue. Malaysians just weren't saving enough. Even before COVID, some had warned that the EPF contribution rate was too low.
Before COVID, we already have this issue. The cracks are already there. We are becoming more aging. Not many people have savings. But our policy during COVID make things much worse.
That support system has gone missing. The family system has started to break down because people are having less and less children. So we're starting to see that first wave of people who are having trouble in retirement really coming through.
A financial planner turned YouTuber, Peter Yong, is the founder of Mr. Money TV, a financial education channel. He explains what the retirement figures are like for the average Malaysian.
The official figure is 250,000 in EPF in order for you to retire, yeah, but that doesn't take into account of your other expenses. So I would say that we are looking at the 20 years after retirement and a very thrifty retirement lifestyle. I would say 300,000 to 350,000 should be the amount that you minimally must have. So assuming today if you're 30 years old and you're earning about 2,500 ringgit a month and you plan to retire at 60. So assuming after retirement, you're going to live for another 30 years until 90 years old. And during that time, your expenses is going to be 1,500 ringgit a month based on today's standard. So after you taking into account into inflation, you will actually need 1.1 million, 1.143363 to actually retire. Therefore, you still need to save about 275.23 every month right now.
But many Malaysians are nowhere close to this number.
I think most Malaysians actually don't save. Recently, there was a survey report done by Ringgit Plus. It says that 70% of Malaysians actually save less than 500 ringgit a month. Yeah, and about 60% of Malaysians actually are living on paycheck to paycheck.
For Sukhvinder, he has started to put money into his EPF account voluntarily. His target is 30% of his income, but it has been a struggle as expenses continue to rise.
The things are getting more expensive than before that lah. So everything, all the price already went up. Food price, rental, expenses, oil. For now, we can afford, but in future we're not sure lah. We're not sure that we can afford.
Is there a way to save the EPF? Before he became a taxi driver, Norazlan worked as a chauffeur and bodyguard. He made a comfortable living, bringing home 8,000 ringgit or $1,600 each month. But due to poor financial planning, he didn't squirrel much income away.
Memang kesilapan saya lah. Saya fikir benda ni akan berpanjangan, tapi tak sangka macam ini jadinya kan. Jadi saya tak ada pilihan lain. Alhamdulillah keadaan saya sihat. Jadi whatever pun saya kena usahakan macam mana untuk pembesaran anak saya dan perbelanjaan harian. Tapi agak sukar, memang sukar sangatlah. Whatever itu tanggungjawab saya, jadi saya kena usahakan.
It has been some months since Norazlan made his 6-day journey by foot to protest the freeze on EPF monies.
Assalamualaikum sahabat. Saya akan bermula berjalan daripada Tol Skudai sampai Istana Negara, insyaAllah. Kita sambung jalan lagi.
Other than a few blisters, he gained little else. The government didn't acquiesce to another round of EPF withdrawal, citing the improving economic conditions.
I think it's a big no. Unemployment rate is at the lowest now compared to during pandemic. It's now hovering at about 3-ish%, which I think is really not extremely difficult for you to find a job. And why resort to getting your savings when actually you can, try to look for a job. And government is also giving other support by means of cash transfer, also giving some other aids to assist people via Rama initiative. And so now is really time to save for our future, and it's really time to readjust our lifestyle to make sure you can have a decent retirement life later.
In 2022, Malaysia's GDP grew by a healthy 8.7%. Signs of recovery are everywhere, including the live entertainment scene.
I have a big piece of news to share with you guys. Over the lockdown period, I managed to score myself a sugar daddy. You guys want to know what my sugar daddy's name is? EPF, guys, alright?
39-year-old Charmaine Othman is a recognisable figure in the Malaysian comedy circuit. She has made a name for herself as a stand-up comedian, screenwriter, actor, producer and director.
The minute I came out of my mum, you know, all my aunties would have gathered around my mum and asked, Charmaine, bila nak kahwin? You know,
when COVID-19 halted live entertainment, it also cut off many of Charmaine's income streams. She even had to sell her 12-year-old car to help support herself financially. So when the government announced that EPF contributors were allowed to withdraw their savings, she didn't even think twice about it.
I was actually quite surprised with the amount I had, you know, all the dividends that it collected over the years. I think the security of having a roof over my head, I didn't want to get evicted. And, you know, even with the little writing jobs that I had, the payment structure is very spread out. So I was just scared, what if I didn't make enough to pay my rent? So that's why I took out my EPF money just so I could pay rent.
But unlike Norazlan, she doesn't feel the need to dip into her EPF account anymore. Instead, she's become more conscious of her retirement needs.
You have to think about your future, you know, your savings for your retirement. You shouldn't be dependent on that. It's very enticing to want to dip into it again, but I think the wise move is not to, yeah.
More than 60% of Malaysians actually are living on paycheck to paycheck, which means they either spend exactly what they earn or either they spend more than that. And there are a lot of statistical reports that actually show Malaysians are not saving enough. And the only reason they can survive well is because EPF is there, so that during retirement it's already locked in.
To rebuild the EPF, those at risk not only have to resist the temptation to dip into this kitty, they must also make up for the previous withdrawals by saving more. But this is proving difficult in the current inflationary climate.
Definitely. High cost of living is one thing, but another more pertinent issue is income, because income is not growing as fast as it should have been compared to the cost of living. And we're talking about a median salary of just 2,600 ringgit. That's very low when half of the population is earning just about that. And in certain states, particularly in the less developed ones, we're talking about Kelantan, Sabah, Kedah, for example, the median wage is just about 100 or 200 ringgit above the minimum wage. So a lack of income is a critical issue.
The share of wages to GDP, we call it compensation of employee, remains low even compared to America, compared to Singapore, compared to UK. We pay too low to our workers.
The reason is also because we are stuck in a low-value economic structure for a long time. Now the government, through energy transition roadmap, through our national investment policy, master plan, try to revive the economy so that we can all move to a higher value-add economy, high growth, high value industries, and so on. But that will take some time.
I think there's a systematic problem where the government over the years failed to increase the living standard of Malaysian in terms of bringing in higher value industries, bringing in higher value jobs. But very often our job is very dependent on low-skill labor, low-skill, low-cost labor. We may be involved with big companies, big brands, but low-skill, low-cost. And the ones that are high-skill, generally a portion of them will move to Singapore.
The government is now exploring ways to boost income. The minimum wage was raised to 1,500 ringgit this July. It's also exploring a progressive wage model where the salaries of semi-skilled and skilled workers are gradually increased. Plans will be unveiled in the future.
So if done properly, this could be something as how it's implemented in Singapore, where the wages are progressively increased in tandem with inflationary rate at least.
It takes two persons to dance a tango, right? So we can't just say, let's increase the wage of construction workers to 3,000 tomorrow. Yeah, the industry will collapse, and we can increase it over time so that the industry could adjust, and also at the same time, the employees is also getting a commensurate remuneration.
I like going to Singapore.
These policies will take time to bear fruit. Meanwhile, Charmaine at least could have an ace up her sleeve.
I think I have enough time because I'm going to write a blockbuster movie. It's going to collect a lot of money and I'm going to put it in my EPF. Yeah, that's my plan. Yeah.
But what would happen if the retirement time bomb isn't diffused? "44-year-old Azhar Muhammad is a trained auditor, so he understands the value of financial planning.
Alhamdulillah pada masa tu sebelum COVID melanda, saya memang ada membuat sedikit simpanan lah. Maknanya ada allocation tiap-tiap bulan tu, memang gaji saya akan saya simpan lah. Walaupun pada waktu tu pun gaji pun tak tinggi. Cuma saya memang praktiskan simpanan ni memang wajib tiap-tiap bulan. Saya memang ada allocate kan some portion untuk simpanan sendiri.
This came in handy when he was retrenched from his job as an auditor in 2020.
Pada waktu tu dengan anggaran pandemik, saya rasa dengan simpanan saya ada, dengan wife saya yang still bekerja, kami rasa kami mampu lagi lah, walaupun sama-sama tidak mengeluarkan wang daripada simpanan daripada KWSP lah. Wang tu memang untuk digunakan untuk perbelanjaan harian saja. So saya tak rasa duit tu saya perlu channelkan ke tempat-tempat lain lah. Dan saya rasa duit yang ada dalam simpanan KWSP pun saya rasa penting untuk semasa saya persaraan nanti.
While Azhar could leave his EPF untouched, others could not. Through the 4 rounds of withdrawals, 8.1 million Malaysians took out 145 billion ringgit from the pension fund. The median savings fell across all races, with Malays being the most affected.
Those who withdraw are mostly low-income people. You face retirement crisis. Retirement crisis is not going to be in next generation. It's already happening because short-sighted of the policymaker at that time. A lot of old age poverty, and the bulk of them gonna be Malay people. It's not healthy for multiracial country like us. If you look the statistics, the median saving among the Buputra dropped by about 70%. It's much more than other groups.
We have a window for reform. We have a window for improving the system. We have a window, I think, in terms of educating the public on the need for saving for retirement. And I think we have a receptive audience. People do realize the importance of it. It's just whether they have the capacity for it.
However, this window is shrinking due to Malaysia's changing demographic.
When we started EPF, you can withdraw at age 55. At that time, life expectancy was 56. So you get 1 year, you spend jolly, then you die. It's okay. Now life expectancy is about 76, 77. And you still withdraw at 55. Before it's okay because you die faster. Now you live longer without money.
The thing is, Malaysia is the second fastest aging country in Asia after Korea. We'll be going from aging to age to super age within a short span of 50 years. Essentially just about 2 generations. So this is something that I think is, people like to say ticking time bomb, right? We're seeing some of that happening today already.
What happens if large swathes of Malaysians retire without sufficient savings? The burden would then fall upon the next generation or the state, creating a sandwich class. As the eldest son, Sukhvinder's parents rely on him in their twilight years.
It's difficult because I have to support my family. My parents are old, so for their medication, for saving for them to use for their daily use. They are the one who brought me up, so what they want I give them. What I cannot give, they will understand from me. What I can help, I will help them.
What makes you happy?
They are still alive. They're happy, I'm still here with them.
It's not just supporting your parents, it's also supporting your children. And I think, especially for the boomer generation, it's now you're having to support your grandchildren at the same time. So it's like 3 or 4 generations where that one generation has the support. So yes, that is a factor, and it is happening.
Old age poverty also has already increased, and it's going to get much worse because your EPF savings already been depleted. Like, give the statistics to you, 1 in 2 has only 200 per month to live until they die. It's much below poverty line, which means they're qualified for social assistance, which means the amount the government have to give going to be much increases.
So there is a race against time now to rebuild Malaysia's retirement kitty. In the latest government budget, announced last week, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim unveiled a slew of measures to encourage voluntary contributions by contract workers and to expand coverage for housewives.
There are other mechanisms that we can look at. For one thing is, you could raise the retirement age. There's a lot of policy options. Raise the retirement age, increase employment for the elderly.
But even increasing the retirement age has its limitations.
The main policy advice is you have to work longer and you have to save more. But if they wanted to have a decent pension, it would be 600,000 ringgit, even 900,000 ringgit, depending on the type of household that they're in. So if you have somebody who's 40 years old or 50 years old or 55 years old and they have very little time left to work, it's not possible for them to save more or to work longer.
Also proposed is a third EPF account, which workers can freely access in emergencies. This is on top of a proposal in March for retirement money to be used as collateral to secure bank loans in emergencies. But Anwar's loan suggestion has come under fire from several quarters.
The proposal did not come from EPF. It was just out of blue announced in Parliament. You can use it to go and borrow. We are already highly indebted. We are one of the highly indebted household in this region. I think second after Thailand. We are highly indebted. The government are also highly indebted. Now you want them to go and borrow some more. What's the reason?
Katakanlah dia ada sebagai contoh dalam KWSP dia ada 40,000. Dia dapat kelulusan pinjaman bank 30,000. Dalam masa 10 tahun dia bayar balik ataupun 5 tahun dia kena bayar balik. Katakanlah pada ketika itu dia tak mampu bayar. Dia tak mampu bayar pinjaman dia kepada bank yang dia jadikan pinjaman ini, maka bank akan charge dia termasuk dengan interest melalui cagaran yang ditanam ketika dia membuat pinjaman. Jadi lagi zalim. Duit dia akan habis. Pinjam 30,000, mungkin dia kena bayar 40,000 lebih. Duit KWSP pun habis. Interest kena bayar.
For now, there appears to be no quick fix to the problem. There's no silver bullet that could help turbocharge the retirement savings, as the salaries of workers remain low and costs of living remains high.
EPF is important for us. We cannot depend on other things. EPF is our backup, spare backup. If anything happen, anything or what, we have our EPF to support us. If I have money, more money, I will put in the account. Just let my money grow there.
Kenapa kita nak fikir akan datang sedangkan kita sekarang dah macam nak mati? Kan? Kita sekarang macam kadang-kadang saya terfikir, baik saya mati sekarang, jadi duit saya tu anak saya dapat. Sampai macam itu. Tapi kita agama Islam. Alhamdulillah saya dapat fikiran waras. Saya usaha cara lain. Tapi still lubang yang di belakang ni masih belum dapat tutup. Kami mengharapkan, sangat-sangat mengharapkan lagi.
We need to increase the per capita income of our citizens. Yeah, higher income means more savings and more contribution to EPF account. And secondly, better economic activities, higher growth rate definitely will also help in creating higher value jobs and also more business opportunities for business so that they can also pay more to the workers.
And yes, that time bomb is ticking. We have maybe a 10, 15, 20-year window to actually do something about it.